comes to what we're giving and what we're, how we're sowing. Lord, how do you want us to sow this morning? God, we want to sow with generosity.
And as much as I can.
As concerned about the amount as you're concerned about our heart, Lord. And we want hearts that are just so fixed on you, so sensitive to your spirit, God, that if you say less, then less it is. And if you say more, then we can trust you in that. Either way, it's a win-win for us and for you, Lord. Have your way, God. Have your way. Amen. So yeah, those little blue bags are going to come around, and let's just address the elephant in the room. If you have nothing to put in there, that's okay. It's okay. Nobody is judging you. No, if they are, that's between them and the Lord. Like, that's not your deal. You have nothing to give in because you give online. That's cool. You can go give online if you want at zionspokane.church/give. That's the way I give. I'm not telling you that so you know that I give. I'm just saying that's the way I give. I don't care if you know that I tithe or not. I really don't. It's not important to me. That's between me and the Lord, right? So be free. Be free to just say no thanks on the blue bag. Okay? Can we do that? Freedom this morning. All right. We've got some announcements to give. We have Zion Youth 2022 nights coming up February. You guys mark your calendars. Johnny, do you want to come up and share about that? Kind of give a, idea of what's going on.
Yeah, we're really excited. So February, I would love a table. That would be awesome. Thank you. February 15th, 16th, and 17th, 3 nights at 3 different churches. The easiest way to do it, if you would like a flyer, I'll have a stack of them at the end. It's got all the information on there, but we're really excited. I think we're getting close to 20, I believe, churches that are attending or have been reached out to from around the region. And I think it's a really amazing thing. I told our youth group a couple weeks ago, like, we think of like church, but when we look at the Bible, we see Paul writing to church, like the church at Ephesus, the church at Galatia, the church at Philippi. Like, he was writing to cities. And so I think something really significant happens when we gather as the church of the city and of the region, not just as Zion or just as Victory Faith or One or whatever. And so if you have a junior high or high school student, we're going to do that in a few weeks here. So February 15th, 16th, and 17th. We would really love to see you there. If you would like to register, you can find the link to register in our Instagram bio. If you're not on Instagram, you can come find me after service, and I'll help you get you registered. It's going to be a great time. $20 is all you need for all 3 nights. It's going to be a great time. So junior high, high school, the middle of February, we'd love to see you for 2022 nights.
Whoop, whoop. That's exciting. We have a young adults meeting happening. They had a great meeting on the 9th. Looks like they got some things sorted out and decided on. Looks like their next meeting is going to be Saturday, February 5th. And I don't necessarily remember the ages for that, Johnny. 18 to 30. So if you're 18 to 30 years of age, head on over to Isaiah and Kenzie's house. If you don't know who they are, they were the ones up here leading worship. They're our worship leaders as well. So connect with them or connect with Johnny and Elise. They'll give you the address, give you some more details on that. There might be tacos. That's a rumor out there that's, floating around, I guess. There might be tacos. I have been over to Rita and Hector's house for an authentic Mexican cuisine, and it's so yummy and delicious. So just go for the food and then, see if there's other good stuff happening. So, all righty. Giving receipts look like they're being sent to your email, so just take a few minutes to print it off or download. Check all your folders if it's not showing up, and because it's there. So make sure to get it. If you need help with that, you can contact Kylie. So, all right, just so you know, Pastor Chris is visiting some family in Arizona. She has not abandoned us. She's visiting family. She's getting some rest and relaxation. So please be praying for her on her trip. I'm not sure when she gets back again. We don't know, but she will come home, I promise. Pray that she comes home. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, pray for her. Just always so good to pray for your leader, right, man? Anyways, but we have Johnny, so yay. Come on up, Johnny. I'm losing my voice, so.
Awesome. Hello, everybody. I'm back up here again. Here we are. Yeah, like Talena mentioned, children's church kids, you are dismissed. We have children's church classrooms down the hallway there. So we would love to have you taught in the way of the Lord in your own language. 4 through 4th grade, if I'm not mistaken, is down that hallway there. You can follow the signs or just follow the troop of kids. Just follow like the salmon do. Just follow the rest of the fish going to up the stream. Except for they'll come back. It's not like a salmon going upstream because they're going to survive. That's one of the main goals of our children's ministry is that every single week, unlike the salmon swimming upstream, they will survive. There's no bears waiting to snatch them, and they will not die of exhaustion. It's only, I would wager, a 45-second walk. 20 seconds if you run, like most of them. So we're super happy to be here. Like Talena mentioned, my mom does send her warmest regards, and they are warmer down there in the south. She's at a nephew's wedding, and so I'm excited to preach today and get the chance to unpack some scripture with you. And you know, it's always a little bit different when it's like the pastor's gone, and you're like, hopefully there's a church when you get back. I'm going to do my best to make sure that happens. And none of you laugh, so I trust that you feel the same nervousness that I do. And Happy New Year. It's my first time talking to you here in the new year. I'm excited for the new, and I love, you know, there's always the new year, new me. And I'm a joker, so I have probably said new year, new me every single day as I pull into like a McDonald's drive-thru or something like that, or do something that is absolutely not a new me. It's something I've always done, but it's no, new year, new me. New year, new me. And resolutions are great. People like to be down on New Year's resolutions, and they probably should be. They don't really work. But I think anytime you're like, how can I make myself better? That's a good thing. That's a good thought. But I love goals. I love resolutions. I'm not really the kind of person to wait for January 1st. I'm like, tomorrow is a good day. But I think that they're a really great thing. But the issue with them is that statistically, by March 1st, about a month and a half, 98% of them will be dead. So it's not looking too good for you. You're on a crash course with reality. Maybe they're already gone. They actually say that of that 98%, I think it's like 68 by January 19th. January 19th is actually officially, or unofficially, I meant to say, unofficially dubbed Quitter's Day. So if you've made it past Quitter's Day, you're at least in the better portion of the people that will probably inevitably quit. But maybe you'll be in that elect 2%, where you're like, I actually made it. I changed my life. And I hope you are. And today I want to give you some encouragement on how to be the person that you want to be, how to be that person. So today I want to give you hope in your life. After I just spent the first 30 seconds of this message just destroying it with a nuclear missile, I'm going to come at you with a little bit of hope that you can be the person that you have always wanted to be, that your life could look how you've always wanted it to look in 2022. But here's the catch. You cannot do it. You can't do it. In fact, I'm like 98% sure that by March 1st, you'll also be convinced that you cannot do it. That thought pattern, you can't do it. That Bible reading plan, can't do it. Being a positive person, probably can't do it. In fact, my main question to you is, why would you even try? Why even try? Why even try? Listen to the words of Jesus before you burn me at the stake. He says this in John 15. If you want to read along with me, you can go to John 15. But Jesus says this. He says, live in me. Make your home in me, just as I do in you. In the same way that a branch cannot bear grapes by itself, but only by being joined to the vine, you cannot bear fruit unless you're joined with me. I'm the vine, you're the branches. When you're joined with me and I with you, the relationship will be intimate and organic, and the harvest is sure to be abundant. But separated, you cannot produce a thing. Listen to this. Anybody that's separated from me is dead wood, gathered up, thrown on the bonfire. But if you make yourselves at home with me and my words at home in you, you can be sure that whatever you ask will be listened to and acted upon. And this is how my Father shows who he is when you produce grapes and when you mature as my disciples. That's a stark reality. And Jesus is obviously speaking allegorically. We're not talking about literal grapes and fruits producing from our pores. He's talking about good things in our life. He's talking about good fruit in our life, good characteristics, like things like the purity to have your mind changed, things like the self-discipline to have your finance change, or the discipline to have your body change, or the things like being a positive person, these disciplines that are in your life. This is what Jesus is talking about. But Jesus's message, if you turn it, is like, okay, so we can do it with you. Joined, we can do it with you. It'll be an intimate and organic connection. The harvest will be abundant, and separated will be dead wood thrown on a bonfire. So Jesus paints a pretty clear picture. And so today I want to ask you a question, like, why even try? Why even try? We've been talking about it a lot this last few months at youth group, but I've been saying this phrase that I'm so committed to get the church to live like it's the new covenant. Because so many of us are still living the old way, where it's all about effort and plans and strategies and white knuckle and like discipline. And well, if I get up at 5 a.m. every day and I spend the first 5 hours of the day in prayer and worship, maybe I won't have a lust problem anymore. And you're like, let me try. Can I tell you today, here's your New Year's resolution. Can I give you one? If you don't want to be the 98% that don't make it to March 2nd, give up. Give up doing it on your own. Give up being the grind it out, get it done person. And I'm one of those, for the record. But give up. Stop and abide. Live in him. Do you want to work out every day and get in shape? Do you want to lose weight this year, which is about 68, 67% of New Year's resolutions are tied to workout or weight loss. Do you want to do that? That's wonderful. That's great. That's in the Bible. That's a wonderful thing. Abide in Jesus and watch the fruit of self-discipline or self-control begin to bud in your life. Do you want to be a person that can lead people to Jesus, that can lead people in a relationship with Jesus? Can I tell you to stop trying and abide? Fall so in love with Jesus that you cannot help but lead people into a relationship with Jesus. He'll lay out strategies. He'll lay out plans. I'm not saying that you're going to spend a few minutes every day praying and worshiping and suddenly you are perfect. There's clearly a process and a plan to this, but what he may end up doing is he may end up doing to you what he did with Gideon, where he says, Gideon, I want you to go to a war with 300 soldiers against an army with 10,000. And you're like, that makes no sense. That makes no sense. But it's not. It might not be strategic, but it is divine. And so I want to give you one of those strategies today. And I want to dive into what Jesus looked at with this word, abide. Or if I can take it to abide, like how do we abide? You abide by resting. And today I want to talk about this super sacred practice of resting, stopping, slowing down, and waiting. And I want to talk about this because I think that if you truly want to be the person that you want to be, listen, by all means, you can try to do it like Jesus didn't die on the cross and give you the Holy Spirit to empower you. But for me, I'm like, that sounds a lot easier to do it with Holy Spirit, to do it with Jesus' help, to do it with God on my sides sounds a whole lot easier. So we're going to talk today about rest. Like literally, I told somebody, I was like, I want you to go home today just like excited to go nap. Like, I'm fired up. Like we're here, we're in the tunnel, we're about to go out to the Super Bowl, but the Super Bowl is a nap. And you're like, and I'm here, I'm the linebacker, ready to gas you up to go home and rest. Calm down, slow down. And this has been a really personal journey for Elise and I. It was a while ago now. I think it was probably back in, I'd say like April or May of last year, of 2021, that this concept kind of first started to really hit us. And I was listening to a podcast, and it's this podcast that comes out of Jesus culture. It's called the Pastors Podcast. It's hosted by 3 pastors, and it's a podcast for pastors and by pastors. And so I'm like, I'm here for it. I'm going to listen to that. And so I was listening to it one day, and I really like, especially when the weather's nice, I just have a real tough time. I'm like, if I'm just going to be listening to a podcast and studying, I'm going to go do it at the driving range, not in my office, because it's like 70 degrees and sunny outside. So I was listening to this podcast, and I was hitting some golf balls, and I was, fine-tuning to probably still suck at golf because it's just so dang hard. But I was listening to this podcast, and the lady that was kind of the guest on this podcast brought up this subject that we talk about, but we just don't do. And she's like, well, yeah, on my Sabbath. And the host literally stopped her like, wait, do you like practice like an actual legit Sabbath? And she's like, yeah, every week. And actually my business exploded as soon as I did. As soon as I stopped and I was like hitting some golf balls, like, that's a really good point. And Elise and I, we weren't like physically listening to it together like at the same time, but we listened to the same thing, and so we would talk about it, and we were talking, and we're like, that's really interesting, that's really cool, like that should be a thing, this concept of rest. And we did kind of what I think a lot of people do now, where we're like, well, it's just kind of a state of being, it's like we just live in this state of rest as we go 1,000 miles an hour 7 days a week. And listen, before we go any further, I'm not talking about a day off of work where you do your chores, your laundry, your grocery shopping, and just your general craziness outside of it. I'm talking about rest. Rest. And so we're talking about it, and we're like, okay, yeah, but we live there. We live there. You walk side by side with Jesus. His yoke is easy, his burden is light. And we justified. And we rationalized. And this thing that she said, she was like, I started doing it because a pastor in my life said, have you killed anybody this week? She's like, no, obviously not. Have you made a brazen image, any golden calves, and worshiped them? No. Have you Sabbathed? It's all in the same rules. It's all in the 10 Commandments. That was how heavily God regarded your rest, your stopping. He was like, hey, don't lie, don't cheat on your wife, don't kill people, don't worship other gods. Oh, hey, by the way, don't forget to rest and take a nap every now and again, and don't work for 1 day a week. Anyways, moving on, I don't want you to be jealous. And then he goes on to the other things that we talk about in church. But he just kind of peppers in there, 1 day a week, stop. And then about a month ago, if you need a book recommendation, I would heavily recommend the book to you, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. Which I saw the title and was like, I probably need that in my life. That sounds like a book that I should get into. So I, of course, it was the most like one chapter in and I'm convicted. He's like, take this book and slow down. You know how poorly I did at slowing down? I got the audiobook version so that I could listen to it while I'm doing other things. So if you just want to feel a little bit better getting that book, probably get the paperback copy, kick back and read it, and you'll feel a little better. I was like, working out while I was like, slow down. I'm like, okay. You got it. But it really was a great book, and he began to unpack this and really put it into language, what Elise and I had been feeling in this thing. And so we've actually implemented in our real life Sabbath, a whole day to stop. And by the way, this is not just an Old Testament thing. This is not an Old Testament thing. It says right here in the book of Hebrews, there remains then Sabbath rest for the people of God. For anybody who enters into God's rest, listen to this, also rests from their works. Not work, not your job, works. Things that you do. Just as God did from his. Let me press pause real quick. Did you know that God did not need a break from talking? Did you know that? Did you know that when he created the entire universe in 6 days with his voice, he wasn't like, poof, I'm tuckered out. Did you know that God was doing what every good parent does? He was setting an example. He was setting a rhythm. I want you to work and work hard for 6 days and then chill. Work and work hard for 6 days, and then chill. So rest from our works, just like God did from his. Let us therefore, listen to this, strive to enter into that rest. Figure that one out. And then this next part, strive to enter that rest so that no one will perish. Encouraging. By following their example of disobedience. Strive to enter rest so that you don't follow an example of disobedience and then die. I'm so serious. Go home and chill. Or sometime in your week, slow down. And the one thing that really stuck out to me in all of this was the faith that begins to be required of you when you say, God, I trust you. God, I trust you. And so when God commands the people of Israel, you can find it in Leviticus 25. We're not going to read it because it's Leviticus, and so it's really long. And so, but God commands the people of Leviticus. He says, hey, for 1 day a week, I want you to stop and relax. And then he says, once every 7 years, I want you to stop. I want the land to relax. In an agricultural nation, in an agricultural time, I don't want you to plant. I don't want you to prune. I don't want you to fertilize or till for an entire year. You can pick it and you can eat it. You literally can't even store it. If you don't eat the crops, let them die. You want to talk about faith? Picture this. If God said, every 7 years, I want you to stop working for a whole 7 years, or for a whole year, for a whole year. You're like, well, I got a mortgage. I have kids to feed. I would really love to keep the electrical bill going. And God's like, no, once every 7 years, I want you to relax. And this isn't a command that God has then extended on into all of us, but Sabbath has, the rest has. But then he goes even further. He says, hey, I want you to count 7 sevens, which is 49. Every 49 years, I want you to rest just like you do on a 7th year. And then hit the 50th year, I want you to blow a trumpet because we love trumpets. And then I want you to rest for a whole nother year. I want you to think about this like really like your bank account. I want you to think about this like your self-worth. I think one of the things that we really saw in pastoral ministry when COVID hit was a lot of people that probably would not have told you that their worth came from what they did until what they did stopped. And then they felt terrible about themselves. Because we cannot rest. It wraps all this up in Leviticus chapter 25. He gives them all these commands. He says, I want you to Sabbath once every 7 years. I want you to Sabbath for a year. Once every 49 or once every 50 years. I want you to Sabbath for 2 years. I want you to relax. God says this, if you want to live securely in the land, follow my decrees and obey my regulations. Then the land will yield large crops. You will eat your fill and you will live securely in the land. If what? If you follow my decrees, if you follow what I said, if you rest. But you might ask, I like how he says might. Like you might ask this, let me have some foresight. What are we gonna eat? Which is a super fair question. Like, I love that he says might. Like, you might. I know if I know you like I think I do. You might be like, hold up, what are we going to eat during the 7th year since we don't get to plant and we don't get to harvest and throw it into storehouses? But he says this, be assured that I will send my blessing for you in the 6th year so that the land will produce a crop large enough for 3 years. When you plant your field in the 8th year, you will still be eating from the crop from the 6th year. In fact, you'll still be eating from that crop all the way till you harvest the next one in the 9th. God is saying, I'm going to bless you so heavily when you decide to rest and put your faith in me enough to rest and put your faith in me, not in your strategies or plans, but I'm going to bless you so heavily that I'm not only going to ask you to rest, but I'm going to provide for you to rest. You see, God's command of rest does not come without a promise of provision. He doesn't say rest so you can suffer. I want you to be lazy so that you can be in want. He says, I want you to rest as an act of faith and watch me provide. This is a really silly example. But like I said, we've implemented this in our life. And it's, as a parent, it's been wonderful. Like a day where my 2 children just get all of my attention. The floors might be messy. I'm not mopping. It's not happening. There's a pile of laundry. That sounds like a great job for tomorrow. But the natural thing is that then the other 6 days, there's a few more things to do because you're committed for a whole day. And this is just what we do. And I'm going to get into some different situations. And so if you're frustrated with me talking about this, I believe I'm going to address some of those concerns in a little bit. So just hang on tight for me. But this is super silly. I'm not that bad, but I'm not like the handiest guy in the world. I'm not that bad. Like my dad was terrible. He was mind-bogglingly, like, I don't understand how somebody so smart can be so dumb. I'm dead serious. Like, I'm so serious. Chris will tell you, he legit, this is a true story. He was trying to drill something in for an extended period of time. I have been led to believe it was between 5 and 10 minutes. He called for help to find that the drill was in reverse the entire time. I have tremendous respect for my father. I really believe he was a wonderful man. I truly count him as one of the greatest blessings in my life that I grew up with a great dad. He was dumb without the B when it comes to like tools. Like bad. So I'm not there, but I'm not like great. So when I have a project, I'm like, this is probably gonna take me longer than the average person, but it will get done. This is a silly example. There's a Saturday, this last not yesterday, the day before, or the week before. I had 4 projects, I'm like, but I got to get them done because I'm not doing them on Monday. And if I don't do them on Monday, I'm going to be staring at them the whole time. And my type A brain is going to be going insane, staring at those unfinished projects. And Sabbath's going to be a little bit harder. All 4 of those projects, 20 minutes, which for me does not happen. 20 minutes is usually what I do before I realize that I accidentally made it worse, and then I have to undo the first 20 minutes, finally read the whole manual, look up the actual YouTube video, and then fix it for real. But I was like, so I went upstairs and I was like, Elise, we're eating the crop in the 9th year that we planted in the 6th. I'm done. And she was like, you're done? I'm like, I'm done. The bathroom is fixed. I fixed the toilet, I fixed the door, I fixed the shower, it's all done. I don't know how that happens, but we're eating crops that we planted a long time ago. So why Sabbath? This is a practice that we've started in our life to build in what we would call margin, like time where you don't have plans and you do not intend to have plans. When we build in margin, why do I think that you should do this? That's a fair question. Because it is becoming increasingly more and more un-American. I don't know if you guys have seen, I understand that social media is like run by one massive algorithm machine that just kicks things out that's catered to your gender and your interests and your age. But for me, as a young man, I see so many of like the Instagram influencer businessmen, investors. I sleep 2 hours a day. And I wake up, and this is their favorite word, I wake up and grind. I get to the grind. And I work, and they brag. They're like, I only sleep 3 hours a day. 8 hours is a myth. And you're like, whoa, you're cool. I get up, I run 7 miles. Then I go home, I do a light workout. Then I eat breakfast, which is, of course, nothing but a small smoothie. After that, I go on another light 7-mile run. Come home and I clean the entire house. And then I get to work where I make billions and billions of dollars a day. And then I simply just don't sleep or have a family or friends. And then I work and work and work and work and work. And does your life ever just feel like work and work and work? And all of them, the one thing that they have in common and the one thing that they all say is a thing that I have preached about and will continue to preach about. But they say, man, when you get a hold of vision, you are driven. And the American dream, the American way, the grind it out, work all the time, never take a break, never take a vacation, never take a rest, is all driven by vision. But as a follower of Jesus, your life should be driven by obedience. And I believe in vision, and I love vision, and I have visions. I am a dreamer. I have big goals and big plans to get there. But my life is not driven by the vision. My life is driven by obedience. So when God says, stop and wait, and I will bless that vision, I'm like, sounds like a deal. Because my life is not driven by my vision, but it is driven by obedience. You might be thinking this morning, like, I do not have time. I do not have time to rest. And I'm going to get into that here in this tail end of the message. And I want to address this a little bit. And I want to propose this thought to you that when I read scripturally about Sabbath and rest, it feels very similar to reading about tithing. In fact, I would say this, and this is from reading the scriptures and reading what God lays out. I would say to you that I believe that Sabbath and rest in margin is to your calendar what tithing is to your money. That if you want to believe that God will grow it, begin to sow it. That if you want God to grow your finances, I believe that a scriptural way to get there is through generosity. And it makes no sense, but neither is going to battle against an army with 10,000 with 300. But it's divine. and it's blessed. And you say, God, I want more money. I would counsel you to be generous and to give. And if you're like, man, I want more time and there's not enough hours in the day to get everything done, I would say, have you considered resting and just not doing any of it and watching God bless what's already on your plate? I firmly believe that it will happen. Another thing for why. And I'll say this, like the Bible lists out like gifts, different gifts. I am very much like, I'm very grateful. It's not anything I did. It's not anything I was like, I wake up every day. No. I have a gift of faith. I do. I believe God at his word. I believe when God says something, I'm like, that sounds crazy. You can talk to me. Elise and I have some stories that I'm like, I felt dumb doing it, but he said to. So we did it. And we saw blessing. And so when I read the Bible and I'm like, okay, wait a second. Right here, he's saying, I get to rest and take a day off and be blessed that I will accomplish everything that he has for me, and I get to take a day off. Sign me up. Like, to me, it's like, why would I not? And by the way, let me just propose this idea. Is it possible that if in your resting, you're not able to accomplish something, is it possible that God's not calling you to accomplish that? Like, if you feel too busy to rest, is it possible you might just be too busy? Throwing it out there. How? How do we Sabbath? Okay, this is the part for everybody that's been frustrated with me the whole time. Like, bro, you do not get it. I want to tell a story to you. There's a story, and in the Bible, it's in the book of Luke. Jesus is in a synagogue. And in that synagogue, Jesus is there, and he's watching as all the rich and the affluent people of the day come in and they toss their piles of money into the collection plate. And they say, watch everybody, look how much money I get to give. And he drops it into the collection plate and they move on. And everyone's like, wow, do you see how much money that person gave? See how much money that person gave? And then there's this poor woman, and the Bible actually records her as a widow, which in that day means that probably she has no real means of sustainable income. And this poor woman comes into the temple and she drops in 2 pennies. And Jesus says, that's it. That's faith. Jesus tells his disciples, he's like, do you see how much they gave? That's neat. Look at her. Do you see those 2 pennies that she put in? Look at her. That's faith. That's faith. You see, God's not that concerned about your amount. He's concerned about your faith. Remember, we're not driven by a vision. We are driven by obedience. So we don't give our time and our energy and our focus because we're like, well, I want to be the perfect Christian and I want to do everything right and I want to make it all look good and I want to give the most money, the most time, pray the most, read the most, worship the most, be with the people the most. Like, I got to give and pour out and pour out. No. Obey. You might have a very busy life, and a whole day might just seem like too much. But can I ask you this? Can you give God 2 pennies of your time? Not to do anything. And that is the end of the sentence. To not do anything. You know, a really wonderful thing about when you stop and you rest is in the stopping and in the resting, you abide. A really wonderful thing when you stop your busy life, and for me, it looks a whole lot like deleting social media and removing my phone physically from me into a different room so that I can truly rest and abide. You know what happens? You start to talk to Jesus. And you know what happens when you start to talk to Jesus? You begin to be a branch reconnected to a vine, and you begin to see fruit. When you take the time to stop, you remind yourself that you're not the vine. And what that means is it's not your job to figure out the world. It's your job to be the branch that receives everything from the vine. Do you understand that the branch's only connection to the root system that helps get the fruit is through the vine? The branch's only focus in life is to be connected to a vine. As soon as it leaves the vine, it's dead. But as long as it's connected, it lives. So, I want to throw that out there to you. If you're a person, like some of you here today, you're like, I think I could make that work. I think I could do a day. And we started doing a day, and it's incredible what God's doing in the other 6, and it's incredible what God is doing. I look forward to it every single week, the day where we stop. But if you're like, man, I don't know if I have the faith, or I don't know if I can do that, or I just feel like there's too much to do, can you give God a morning where it's just silence and a slow pace? And I'm literally asking you, some of you need to put it on your calendar. Rest, margin from 8 to noon. There's nothing there. Sorry, I'm booked. Hey, can you go to breakfast? You can pray about that. Is that rest for you? Here's the filter we run everything through. Is it worship or is it rest? If you come to our house during Sabbath, you will find a whole lot of resting, and you will see me at one point in the day in the living room with my guitar and our family all together, and we will be singing songs to Jesus and praying because we are worshiping, we are abiding. If you hang out at our house, you will see a time where I take our 2 kids because God bless toddlers. They don't understand Sabbath. They are 1,000 miles an hour 100% of the time. You will see me take my 2 toddlers down into the basement so that my wife can have some time, just her and Jesus, and at the end, I'll come upstairs, she'll take him downstairs, and I will have my time, just me and Jesus, because there's nothing to do. There's nothing to do. So this is what it looks like for us, but I want to pose this one last thought to you, and I am almost done, I promise, but this is what it looks like for us personally. I want to get real practical today, how we do it. And this, by the way, I would describe this as a practice. I do not expect to hand you a Bible and then the next day be like, can you explain the Trinity to me? Explain that conundrum. You've had it for a day. You have to have it figured out. No, because reading the Bible is a practice. You learn, you grow. It's a lifelong pursuit of a spiritual discipline of learning and understanding and gleaning from the Word of God. I believe that Sabbath and rest is the exact same way. You may not be perfect at it. We certainly are not. But these are some things that we have done. The first thing is just like it says in Hebrews, strive to enter the rest. Or some translations would say, make every effort to enter into rest. Now, what that looks like for us is we do all of our chores the day before. We would love to get the kitchen clean, the laundry done, the dishes put away the day before. And sometimes we don't want to, but you know what we would really love to do the next day is rest in a clean home. And if we don't, last week we missed it. We rested in a dirty home. But if he prepares a table for you in the presence of your enemies, I think he can do it in the presence of some dishes. Or in a mountain of laundry, if you are anything like us. Like, talk about New Year's resolutions. Every single time we do laundry, I'm like, Elise, this is the time. Because I just got done folding the 4th basket. Like, this is the time. We are establishing laundry day. And every week, we will have laundry day. So we only have to fold 2 baskets. And then laundry day comes around and someone's like, you want to hang out? We're like, yeah, let's do it. And then we don't do it. And then it's like 2 weeks later, and then we have 4 baskets of laundry. And then repeat the cycle. I'm right there with a 98%. That New Year's resolution did not last. But we make preparations. Like, think of it this way. He says to keep the Sabbath day what? Holy. A holy day. Holiday. Christmas does not just happen to you. But leading up to Christmas, there's preparation. Like you make sure all of your work is buttoned up. You make sure, like, God forbid you have to go to the grocery store with the other dinguses on December 24th, like I had to do, and it's a zoo. And it takes you like an hour to get through the checkout. No, you make preparations. You're like, well, I don't want to go grocery shopping on Christmas Day. Let me go Christmas shopping the day before and get everything ready, everything done. Like, treat it, and it might be a morning. It might, like, if you have the faith for 2 hours a week, do it. I'm so serious. I'm not here to guilt trip you into spending more time doing nothing. I truly believe that it'll make your life better, but if you only can do 2 hours, start with 2 hours. If you're like, whoa, 10%'s a lot to tithe, tithe 4 for a bit and see what God does with 4. So we strive to enter that rest. We prep for it like it's a holiday. Super practical. Here's what we do. We don't work. We don't do house projects. We're not on social media. For me personally, like in pastoral ministry, it's like in the 21st century, you are on call 24/7, not on Sabbath. My phone is in my bedroom. We're not there. We don't do chores. Let me just summarize it in this one thing. And you can copy paste this into any length of time that you decide to make your time for margin. We do not do anything that we don't want to. And that sounds selfish, but it's biblical. I'm so serious. We are so committed to being there for people that we're never there for ourselves. And especially in the church. I forgot to mention, but when that podcast came out, it was right when a prominent pastor in the nation had just been fired and he had been having an affair and he had fallen. And for Elise and I, just to let you in on our lives and our hopes and our dreams, we would love to do this until we retire someday. So we're having, like, that's a sobering moment as an aspiring and a practicing pastor where you're like, whoa. And you begin to hear from the person that fell, and you begin to hear from the people around, and they're like, no, it wasn't an addiction problem. No, it wasn't a problem in their marriage. You know what it was? It was a rest problem. He was burned out, tired, weary of leading church during a pandemic, and he fell. That's what Hebrews was saying when it says, hey, make every effort to enter into rest so you do not perish. It meant it. Because we need to live in a place of abiding. Every Sabbath we worship, and every Sabbath we abide. We rest. I'm talking sitting by a window doing nothing. How are you doing, Jesus? This moment's for you. Isaiah, you want to come up? I want to give an opportunity to practice. We've done this last 2 weeks at youth group, and both weeks, kids have come up and been like, I just heard God talk to me. And I'm like, you're kidding. It's because you weren't on your video games or your phone for like 2 minutes, and he talked. Because you quieted yourself. So I believe that if you want to be the person that you want to be in 2022, if you don't want 2022 to just be your year in speech, I believe that one of your keys is going to be to rest and abide and watch what God will do. Partner your calendar with your faith and rest. I told you I was going to give you some very un-American ideas. The answer to what you're praying for might not be on the other end of hard work. It might be on the other end of quitting and resting and abiding. In this season of God working this into our lives and into our family and our marriage, I've become a big fan of the deep breath. I'm here. I'm here, Jesus. So I just want to take 5 minutes. Can we give them 5 minutes here in church where no one's talking? There's some beautiful piano, thank you. I love that sound. This is one of my favorite, do you know that, Isaiah? This is one of my favorite piano sounds. I like this sound. This is a great altar call sound. This is Holy Spirit on the piano moment. And Lauren, actually, can we turn, let's make it, can we turn the lights off? Can dim these stage lights down, and if you need to come to the front, if you need a place where you can just be, just you and him, the room's open. You're not chained to your chair. But I want to take 5 minutes and I want you to practice. Put your phone somewhere else. Quiet your mind. And I'll bet you're like, whoa, God talked. 5 minutes. Last thing I'll say is if you're watching online, I encourage you, you might be listening to this message months from now, but if you're in the middle of work and you can, hit pause. Just take this time. Just felt right now in this moment, just begin to ask Holy Spirit to help you process how this message makes it out of the sanctuary with you. It's not striving. It's not your own plan. Jesus, what do you want me to do? Where in my calendar can I make time for this? Well, there's 5. Some of y'all forget, like that's so odd now. To like sit, no phone, no distraction. I always find in those moments, I'm like, I forgot how long 5 minutes is. Like, wow, that felt like a long time. But I really encourage you, just as we wrap up today, I really believe that if you want to be the person that you want to be in 2022, that Jesus is necessary, that abiding is necessary, that remembering that you are a branch connected to a vine is necessary. And I believe, it's my persuasion, that you need rest and margin and time to abide. I believe that's a verb, that it takes time. So I would invite you, just as we wrap up today, just process with yourself, with Holy Spirit, with your spouse, with whoever, what this looks like to you. And do you want to never hear me preach again? Or were you like, I cannot wait to go home and Sabbath and rest? But I just invite you just to process what this looks like for you and do something with it and abide and rest and be with him. Amen. Love you.
Oh, thank you, Johnny. What a great word. Like, yeah, seriously, Vince and I are going to go home and have a family meeting about that one. That needs to be just really, incorporated in a greater way. Encouraging word for you this morning, church. Always give up. Always give up. You have permission to always give up one day of the week, or maybe just 2 hours in the morning. Always give up. And you have permission to practice this, right? Sometimes we think it has to be this all or nothing. Oh, I can't give a whole day. Just give, like Johnny said, 2 hours, an hour. Start somewhere. I love that. Love that application. Thank you so much, Johnny. Yeah, take this word to heart, you guys. We're going to have ministry teams up here who are just ready to pray for you and encourage you and love on you. So if you need just some extra loving this morning, extra praying, we'd love to be that and do that here for you. So, and then go home and take a nap, right? You're commanded to do this. You guys have a great Sunday, and we'll see you next week.